first. Just gonna get Roy on here. Hold on. Morning, everyone. Just trying to get Roy on here. Hey, Roy, if you can hear me, next to your name, it says unable to join. Did you have to change some settings back to what it was yesterday? Hi, Renee. Doo, doo, doo. Morning, everyone. Ah, perfect. Perfect. So we have Roy from DiveAssure that's going to be talking with us this morning. There we go. Hi. Roy.
Hey, Rachel, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing this morning?
Very good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Get to answer all of the insurance questions.
I'll do my best, I promise.
Hey, if anyone can do it, it's certainly you, that's for sure. So would you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about DiveAssure?
Sure. So, like Rachel said, my name is Roy Pargament, and I'm joining from DiveAssure. DiveAssure is a diving and travel insurance provider. We have been in business and been around for 20 years now, and we offer basically diving accident coverage and dive travel insurance worldwide. We work a lot with Nautilus Explorer and the great team over there. So I was happy to be invited for this session. And we are happy to answer any questions you might have about our diving, travel insurance, anything that we can do to help.
That's great. Thanks. Well, thanks for joining us too. I really do appreciate it because I feel like a lot of people have insurance questions and we get sent them often. And unfortunately, I'm not the one that can answer those.
Yeah, insurance can get complicated, but that's what we're here for. We have a call center that speaks 7 different languages.
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, we can help people from all over the world via email or a phone call, including, of course, information on our website. So
right. You guys have a pretty user-friendly website too, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Welcome. So I think I have a pretty basic understanding of the different packages you guys offer, but it's kind of split up for Americans or US citizens and then the rest of the world, correct?
Right. So basically, before that, we do offer 2 types of coverage. One program or what type of program will only offer diving accident coverage, so medical coverage for diving accidents. And the other package, which should be more relevant for activities such as Nautilus Explore, Nautilus Liveboards, is our dive travel programs. And those programs offer full diving accident coverage plus trip cancellations and interruptions and medical coverage for non-diving accidents or injuries and things like that. Then, like you said, it does vary between U.S. residents to non-U.S. residents. The main difference is basically the name of the programs and a few other things that are more relevant for U.S. residents versus non-U.S. residents. But basically, it's the same scope of coverage as far as what we offer.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. And then you also have single trip and year-long or annual
Right.
packages.
So people can choose between covering one specific trip a year or more, or they can opt for our multi-trip program, which covers any number of trips outside their country of residence.
Right.
And not only diving vacations. So you can cover 2 or 3 diving vacations that you take throughout the year, and it will also cover you if you're going on a weekend to Paris or anything like that.
Oh, right. That's great.
Yeah.
Definitely. You guys have different packages for everyone in whatever circumstance they need. So that's very helpful. Want to just talk about the virus right off the bat, and I know we'll probably get questions on it, but just that it's a global pandemic, not covered, correct?
It is. It's a known issue, and basically since I think January 24th is when it became a known issue, and then insurance policies around the world do not cover things related to the pandemic. But we are doing a lot of things to help our members, and that is, for example, if people have trips that have been canceled and they're rescheduling them, we will definitely change the coverage period on our policies free of charge to make sure that people are covered in the future. We can be very creative and find ways to help anybody. It's we're part of the industry and we're in this together, so we have to work with everybody to try and minimize the damage.
That's why we like working with you guys. You're so reasonable. We appreciate it. I don't know if it popped up for you, but Simone's question here. What kind of scenario are you expecting in a post-COVID world as divers? I guess, crystal ball question, but do you have any idea if once there is a vaccine from this, if anything's going to change in terms of coverage and stuff like that?
It's a good question, and it's unfortunately too early to answer that. There's a lot of research about the effects of coronavirus on divers and what divers should expect. I know that people, doctors, for example, at Duke Dive Medicine are working a lot to try and understand the effects of this.
Right.
But again, it's too early to tell because not a lot of people are diving at this time because the pandemic is still going on.
Right.
It's definitely something that we would recommend everybody to check with their primary care physicians,
right.
Especially if they have any underlying conditions or think that they might be at risk. They should definitely check to see if they had coronavirus,
right.
To make sure that they are clear and medically clear and safe to go back to diving.
Right. That makes sense. Reasonable.
Yeah, it's a lot of unknown at the moment.
Oh, for sure. We're in the exact same boat. So yeah. I think everyone's just doing the best that they can for the time being, and we'll all get through it together.
That's true. We are seeing some a little bit of the light at the end of the tunnel, if you will. Yeah. Some people are starting to book trips and flights and things for summer, July. We've seen a few reservations, and right. August, and of course winter break. So hopefully, yes, yes,
soon,
definitely.
Hopefully soon.
Hopefully, yeah. We all need it.
Yeah, that's for sure. I know it was supposed to be a scuba show this weekend.
I know. I was actually supposed to be your neighboring booth.
Oh, really?
And, yeah. And I guess we'll have to do it next year.
Exactly. So instead of seeing you at the show, I get to see you virtually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Renee has a question here. She said, would you be extending coverage for people who have an annual membership since everyone is locked down to coronavirus, or is it still the calendar dates there?
We can definitely look into it. It depends on a few things, but if Renee can contact us directly, we can look at her policy and find a way to make it work.
That's great. Well, hopefully just give them a shout, Renee. They're the best ones to talk to. Yeah, that's a really good question. Why is having insurance important? That's a question I get all the time.
That's an excellent question. And when nothing goes wrong, then it's great. But when things go wrong, if you have a diving accident or a minor accident or a trip cancellation or anything like that, you start incurring losses. And the losses can be anywhere from, $500 for a flight to $50,000 of medical bills for a hyperbaric chamber treatment,
Right.
Medical evacuations. And those are things that you do not want to find yourself paying when you could have avoided it by having a policy that will cost a fraction of that amount.
Right.
So it's peace of mind. That's what we say. It's we don't leave home without it, so that if something does happen,
Right.
you are protected. And I can tell you stories of diving accidents, including on liveaboards, where people had to be evacuated, and the cost is just outrageous. And we cover it. So it's something to. If you're already paying money for a trip, you might as well spend a very little extra more and know that you're covered if anything happens.
Right. And we get a bunch of people that often book a trip with us, and we suggest you guys, of course, and then they ask, well, should I get it now, or maybe I'll just put it off and wait and get it right before the trip?
Also an excellent question, and the answer is that the sooner you buy it, the sooner you're protected. If you paid for a trip today, and God forbid tomorrow you break your leg and you need to cancel your trip, if you didn't have trip insurance active already, then of course it's not covered. So we always recommend to buy the insurance or to activate your insurance as soon as you pay for the deposit, or as soon as you make the second payment, depending on, of course, your when you're booking your trip, but definitely as soon as possible. It doesn't cost more to buy it in advance. So even if you're traveling next year, you want to buy the insurance today,
right,
to cover anything that might happen this year. This is, of course, relevant for trip cancellations.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So the sooner you get it, you're paying the same price, but if you buy it earlier, it can protect you against more situations.
Exactly.
Really.
The trip cancellation portion of the policy kicks in as soon as you pay for your policy. Medical coverage and all those kind of things, of course, kick in when you travel.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's definitely why wouldn't you buy it as soon as you buy your trip? Honestly, it just makes so much more sense.
It does, and we do. It doesn't happen often because divers are really aware, but we do sometimes see scenarios where people, think that they bought coverage or think that they bought the right coverage, and that's why we always recommend review all the information on the website. Make sure you understand what you're buying, and if you're not sure, give us a call or send us an email. You'll receive an answer usually within an hour or two. It will help you make sure that you're understanding what you're buying,
right,
and make sure that it does answer your needs.
Right. We have another question here. How does your travel coverage differ from the trip cancellation coverage from a premium credit card?
Excellent question, and we get that a lot. Travel insurance on premium credit cards offers great coverage. I've read a few policies from American Express and Visa and a bunch of those cards, and it's great coverage. It lacks a few specific things, and I'm speaking generally because, of course, there are a lot of policies out there, so I can't pinpoint to a specific policy. But basically, what you need to be aware of is that those policies might not cover you in full for diving accidents. Right. Some of them, especially European credit cards, might have a limit on the number of hyperbaric chamber treatments that you can be covered for.
Okay.
Some will have a depth limit. It might be 18 meters. It might be more, but you don't want to. You want to be aware of it if you're using that policy. Some will have limited coverage for evacuations. Okay. And the most important thing is that if you use their services in an emergency and you call their customer service 24/7 emergency line, the people who are answering the phone there are not divers. They don't know what a hyperbaric chamber is. They don't know where chambers are located. They don't speak the language of divers. You might say something along the lines of, I'm on a liveaboard, and the agent will not know what a liveaboard is.
Right.
That's where all of those things are things that we cover and we do differently. Anybody at DiveAssure, we're all divers. We all go on liveaboards. We've been there, we've done that. And when you call us, we know what DCS or bends and all those things that divers say, we know those things. And I think it's a lot of, even if at the end you'll get the coverage that you need from the credit card policy, I think if I was bent somewhere, I would want the caller, the agent, to know what I'm talking about and what the table 6 is.
Right.
And again, we don't have depth limits on our policies, and we cover all diving-related medical issues in full, sometimes with unlimited coverage. So I think that when I'm diving in a remote location, I don't want to think if there is a limit or anything in the fine print of the policy, because to find those things, you have to open an 18-page document and start reading. Not everybody likes to do that.
No, I don't think many people like to do that. Oh, that's I didn't realize that, actually. That was a really good question. Thank you.
It is a very good question. It could be that there are policies that don't have those limits. Again, there's so many different premium credit cards that it's hard to keep track. But we've read a few and we know a few, and they offer good coverage. If you're going on a weekend vacation to Hawaii, it's absolutely enough.
Right.
But I think that when you're diving, you want to be covered by people who know the diving industry.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, the small written text.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. Can you explain what the liveaboard rider is to us?
Sure. So a few years ago, I think about 5 years ago, we realized that, let me backtrack. Basically, our travel insurance policies were, we took a general travel insurance policy and added to it some diving benefits to make it relevant and tailored for divers.
Right.
But a few years ago, about 5 years ago, we realized that there are some specific scenarios that are unique to liveaboard trips that were not covered. For example, if you're on your way to your destination, and it might not be relevant for all liveaboards, but when you're on your way to a destination where your hotel is basically a boat and it's going to float away and not wait for you, if you're delayed, and not always you can join, and not in all cases you can join that liveaboard. A regular travel insurance policy, once you've left your home until you reach your destination, you are no longer covered for trip cancellations. You only are covered for trip delays. And trip delays have basically a benefit, maximum benefit of about $700 to $1,000.
Oh, wow.
If you miss your liveaboard departure and you cannot join that liveaboard, $1,000 will not cover it. So the liveaboard rider that we offer does include cancellation coverage also while you're en route to your destination.
Oh, wow.
Other things are we cover lost diving days due to various reasons while you're on the boat. So bad weather that is preventing from being able to dive on a specific day, your own medical inability to dive. You're on a 7-day liveaboard, and 2 out of the 5 or 7 diving days, you can't dive because of ear problems or fever or I don't know what. You can be compensated for those lost diving days that you've basically been on the boat having fun still, but not diving.
Right.
Other reasons could be the compressor is broken and no diving can be done, or if there's a diving accident on board and the crew obviously is dealing with evacuating the person and nobody is diving that day. So all of those things and a few other scenarios are covered under our liveaboard rider for lost diving days. And
you can just add that to what, all packages, or?
So for U.S. residents, it's something that you add to either our deluxe or elite programs.
Okay.
For non-U.S. residents, it's those benefits are included in the Dive and Travel Plus program.
Okay.
Yeah. It's an additional premium in both cases, not a lot. I think it's 12% or something like that, 15% maybe extra. But it's well worth it, especially for the cancellation, especially hurricane season.
Yeah, definitely.
During hurricane season. And also, we didn't think that we'll see much, but we do see claims for lost diving days while on liveaboards. So again, it's just a little bit something to sweeten the pill of not being able to dive.
Oh, definitely. That's really great coverage. And then I wanted to ask you about gear coverage and what you offer in terms of that.
Okay. So there are two types of diving gear coverage that we offer. One is if your gear is lost or stolen following a diving accident of yourself, then it's covered. We often see, unfortunately, that diving gear is lost when people are being evacuated from a scene of an accident. And, of course, it's a lot less important than your health and being rescued. But afterwards, when you're home, losing all your equipment is something that you want to have covered. So that's one type of coverage. The other thing is basically trip baggage coverage for lost or delayed gear. If you're traveling with your gear to a destination and it's being delayed by the airline, we will pay for the rental of diving gear so that you don't miss on diving. And then if it doesn't show up and the airline eventually loses it, then whatever the airline won't cover, we will cover. Of course, based on the terms and conditions of the policy, but basically it's secondary coverage to whatever the airline will not reimburse you for.
Okay, so that's very good to know, actually.
The rental thing is also something actually that people claim for. We see people traveling, especially if there are a lot of connections. We see it usually in Southeast Asia. Flying from the US, usually you have to take 2 or 3 connections,
right.
And that's when baggage gets lost or delayed or stolen, and that's when those things matter a lot.
For sure. We just had a bunch of new people join us here too. So this is Roy from DiveAssure. If you have any questions about insurance or DiveAssure specifically, please feel free to ask them, and he'll do his best to answer. I just noticed we had a bunch of new faces pop up there. So, so the package that I also wanted to add, that we offer that $100 onboard credit for anyone that purchases Deluxe. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. Deluxe or American?
You got it right.
And Dive and Travel for the rest of the world.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So it's really
and a lot of people ask about that when they call us and say, Nautilus referred us to you guys, and which one is that program that offers the credit on board? And we know the answer, and we think that it's a great incentive.
Yeah, thank you. Could you talk a little bit about your 24-hour medical line?
Sure.
Because I think a lot of people don't know about that.
All right. So we actually offer 2 types of medical lines. One is, of course, the general emergency hotline that is available 24/7, and you can call it from anywhere in the world, of course, from your boats as well, if anything happens. And there are live agents who answer the phone, and they can speak and basically assist in any language needed. If there's an agent who doesn't speak the language of the caller, within a minute and a half, they bring a live translator online, and we can assist. Therefore, we can assist with any language. That call center will deal with all the emergency situations, evacuation, hyperbaric chamber treatments, rebooking flights, pretty much referrals to hospitals, prescriptions, translations, legal advice. All those things are covered by the policy. Yeah, and when you're in a foreign country, it's a great help.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then the other line that you've mentioned is a medical hotline that we offer through Duke Dive Medicine, Duke University. And that is less for emergencies, but more for people to call and ask medical questions related to diving. So instead of calling your, not instead, but in addition to calling your primary care physician and asking them questions where they might not be experts on diving related questions, you can call and speak with a Duke physician,
right,
and ask them all the questions. It's of course free of charge and it's available. It's phone consultation, so there might be things that they'll not be able to help with, but they can definitely guide you in the right direction. We know that people call with questions. They have certain medical conditions and they want to know if they can dive or how soon after a certain procedure they should be diving. So that's it's a great thing to use. That call center is also available in emergencies for us. So whenever there's a diving accident, not only that the previous call center that I mentioned is involved, we also get a Duke Dive medicine physician online to make sure that the treatment that is being given to the diver is the right treatment. So the doctor from Duke will basically consult with the treating physician anywhere in the world, and we will of course help with languages if needed. But again, we've seen it happen, and sometimes if there's no hyperbaric chamber around and a diver is in an ER, and the doctors there are not exactly sure what to do, talking for that doctor, treating physician, to speak to a doctor from Duke who's a specialist in hyperbaric medicine,
right,
it's a lot of help. So yeah.
How does that line compare to other companies that have a similar line?
I think we get that question a lot. I think it's the same. I don't know if when you call other companies, you speak to physicians or paramedics, but they're all great and they're all very knowledgeable, and the medical advice that is provided through those lines is great. So it's something that I would definitely use. And even if you're a month away before your trip and you're just not sure if what you have on your leg is going to affect your diving or in your lungs or anything like that, or corona questions for that matter. Again, they might not have answers now, or they might say too soon, call us back later. But it's a benefit that is out there and definitely should and can be used by all of our members.
That's awesome. How long have you guys had that line?
That line has been active since December of 2010. So
wow.
10 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, and we often talk to the physicians there, and we are always surprised at the volume of calls. I mean, more people call than we thought.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's just such a good resource that why wouldn't you want to take advantage of all of that knowledge on the other end?
Exactly, and it's available and it's free. Speaking to doctors usually costs money, so it's something
Not
that you can
here.
do. True. For us down here. Yeah.
I'm in Canada, for anyone that doesn't know that. Roy, where are you right now? At home?
I'm in Austin, Texas.
Okay, I wasn't sure where your home base was. So
yeah,
'cause I only ever see you at shows, and I mean, you don't live in Long Beach, you don't live in Florida and Las Vegas, so.
And I think we met in Bangkok also once.
Oh yeah.
I don't live there as well. So.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
If something did happen and somebody needed to file a claim, what do they need? What are the steps they go through? How does it work?
So filing a claim is a pretty simple process. We have people on staff at DiveAssure that specialize in helping people with filing their claims. There is a claim form. It's a pretty straightforward claim form, and then based on the nature of the claim, we ask for some specific pieces of information. For example, if it's trip cancellation, then we'll need to see some documentations from the airline and reasons for the cancellation. If it's a cancellation due to a medical reason, so we'll need to see some notes from the treating physician. But basically, it's pretty straightforward and logical. The claim form is then sent to via email or fax if anybody wants that to our claims, service desk.
Okay.
And then there's a claims examiner, a few claims examiner who review our claims. They'll process the claim, and then if all information was provided to begin with, then usually claims are paid within 48 hours.
Wow.
Sometimes the examiner might, call the member and say, I need a few more details. But normally it's done very quickly, and then the money is transferred to the bank account or via check, depending on what the claimant is looking to do.
Right.
Of course, with Corona, 48 hours is a little bit problematic. So it does go up to maybe, I would say now, 5 days, but we still try to keep it very fast. But again, before and after Corona, it does go down to about 48 hours roughly. And then, of course, if you have questions about claims, we can always assist you and follow up on claims and get you the details that you need.
I'm always so surprised at your guys' turnaround time, because you always hear all those, horror stories that just people are on the hook, just kind of sitting around waiting, and you guys get back to people so quickly and are great communicators, just keeping people posted on what's going on and what's needed. So I think that's one of the things that definitely sets you all apart from other various options.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot, and it's something that we try really hard. And if there are occasions where we didn't do it right, then we want to know so that we can fix it and attend to it and make sure it doesn't happen again. But every once in a while there is a claim that gets delayed or something like that, and we do solve it and attend to it as soon as we can.
Yeah, no, I always say that working with you guys is so easy that it's like you're just the best to work with, and response times and answers to questions and details. It's so helpful on our end.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and working with you guys is also great. I know everybody in the office loves getting calls and emails from you and your team.
Same back at you. We actually, Jen said hi earlier. I don't know if you saw that, but I'm guessing that was probably to you, not me. Jen from our Vancouver office. We have another question. It's what coverage is available for a trip missed due to quarantine?
It depends on when the policy was purchased.
Right.
So if it's an active policy, I encourage whoever asked that person, I can't see the name because it's moving up on my screen, but whoever asked that question should give us a call or send us an email, and we can look at the specific language of that policy and give an answer. Mm-hmm. Also, the actual policy is available online for anybody who go onto DiveAssure.com and log into their account, and then they can read the full terms and conditions. But we, of course, are happy to help and go through the long and boring language of the policy and kind of help them narrow down to the relevant section.
Right. That's great. I asked that one. I've noticed we have some of our crew members on here too. Does DiveAssure provide coverage for people that work on liveaboards, or?
Absolutely.
Okay. What? Yeah. Okay. So if anyone was interested, I'd get Jen to give you guys a shout, because we do require everybody that comes on board does have dive insurance. So
they should have it, and definitely they dive a lot, and they're in the water pretty much year round, without Corona, of course.
Yes.
So
key.
Yeah. But yeah, we are happy to cover both guests and crews. We cover many professionals around the world, and yeah.
That's great. I don't know. I wish I could word this question better, but what kinds of things are not covered?
We do not offer cancel for any reason. It's something that is available through some companies around the world. We do not have that option.
Mm-hmm.
Is it good coverage or not? I've read a few policies when we were considering it, and I see that some policies will only pay 50% or 70% of the premium and the cost of the trip. And we also know that there are a lot of limitations. It does offer coverage for any reason, but you have to file a claim within a certain time frame before a trip. And we find that, or at least from what we know, that a lot of the reasons for the whole require to cancel for any reason occur within usually a few days before the trip, and that's exactly when the coverage doesn't apply. Yes.
Gotcha.
Before my days at DiveAssure, I actually learned that the hard way. So it wasn't a big loss. It was something minor, but I still, I said I had a policy that says cancel for any reason, woohoo, but then it didn't. So that's something that we do not cover. Otherwise, I think that one of the things that we do a lot during the year and also after DEMA is we listen to feedback from providers, from operators, and from our members, of course, to hear and see what they would like to see covered and what they think is missing. That's, for example, how we came up with the liveaboard rider, which is something that we offer exclusively. So if there are things that we do not cover, we're always happy to look into them, and we can do our research. And if it's something that we can cover, we usually add it very fast to our policies.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't realize that the liveaboard rider came from like the feedback of.
It was after DEMA 2015. We've had meetings with two providers that mentioned something similar, and it hit us that that's our main thing is the diving industry. That's our only thing, right. And we need to do it correctly. So that's why we covered it. Another thing that we do, and I don't know if other companies do, but we try to always pay directly to service providers. Whereas some companies will offer a pay and claim solution, we prefer and try to pay the providers directly of any medical bills. For example, if you are in a hyperbaric chamber, if you have a certain policy, you will have to pay the chamber and then file a claim and get reimbursed.
Right.
Whereas we will contact the chamber and work with them directly and pay them directly. So as the diver, you don't have any out-of-pocket expenses. And it's even to the point, there are some chambers around the world, not in Mexico, luckily, but there are some chambers around the world where they'll say that they would not discharge the diver until they see payment. Yeah. And by not discharging, usually it means that they're holding their passport.
Wow.
It happens rarely, but it does. And we can also pay in real time to those providers. Of course, we don't like such providers because we want them to be more flexible and accommodating, but
right.
There are some circumstances where it does happen and we do pay directly.
Wow. Jen has a question here. Is that the difference between primary and secondary?
It's one of the differences. That's a great question. It's one of the differences, but even with our secondary policies, we pay directly to service providers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Primary is actually more relevant to U.S. residents because of different insurance regulations and policies. So in the U.S., we do offer the difference between primary and secondary, and but again, in both cases, we will try to pay directly to service providers. If you purchase, no, actually, it doesn't matter. We'll still pay directly to service providers for diving related accidents.
Right.
If it's not diving related, it might take longer, but again, we will opt for paying directly to the provider. I can tell you that recently, at the end of 2019, we paid directly to a hospital in Honduras, I think it was, Honduras, for a appendicitis surgery. that a diver, had, and it has to be done within, I think, 24 hours. They had a secondary policy that covers non-diving related issues, and we paid directly to the hospital. It was a big claim, and the diver didn't have to pay out of pocket, which is a good thing. You don't want to max your credit card or pay something that you might not necessarily have in a foreign country.
Can you give us a more general description of the difference between primary and secondary?
So
what that means? And
a primary policy pays before a secondary policy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a primary policy and a secondary policy, primary should pay first. Okay. If you have a secondary policy and no primary policy, then your secondary becomes primary. And if you have two primary policies, then depending on the policies and the nature of the incident, both providers might share the cost in some ways. But that's quite complicated to achieve because it's insurance companies having to talk to each other, and it's a long process.
Yeah.
That's why we also say that even if you have a good, somebody actually asked me that yesterday. They said that they have a good primary policy and they were going to Curacao. And they said, so should I get primary or secondary? And I said, look, the difference is not that much in premium. I would recommend separating your diving needs from everything else that you have back in the US. Just have a primary policy, know that it will pay fast and with no problems. And, mm-hmm. If you can pay the premium, then it's worth it.
Right.
But either way, it's the coverage is great and very comprehensive, and we pay directly to the providers, so it's
yeah. Makes sense. What advice would you give somebody when they're trying to pick their options for dive insurance?
We offer different levels of coverage. I think that it's important to read the terms and conditions of the policy, mm-hmm. And the summaries that we have on the website, and kind of make sure that it covers everything that you need. Don't underinsure because you'll be saving a few dollars on your premium, but then if something happens, the losses will be a lot bigger than that, and then you might be sorry for that. There's also no need to overinsure, and we tell that to our customers. If you do not need $1 million in medical coverage, don't waste your money on the premium. We will never upsell. If somebody calls us and to want to try and buy a policy with us, we always make sure that we give all the options, but we will not try to sell you a policy for something that you don't need. It's pointless, and it's not what we want. So always make sure that the cancellation coverage fits the cost of your trip, for example. Okay. Some people will say, I'll self-insure a $5,000 trip, so I'll only get $1,000 of trip cancellation coverage from DiveAssure, and the rest will be on me. It sounds great in theory because you're saving premium, but then if you do end up canceling your trip, being out $4,000 for a difference in premium of $100 or $110 is something that sounded good back then, but then now it doesn't sound that good.
Right.
So we always recommend to match the cost of your trip to the cancellation coverage that you get.
Right.
Same with medical coverage. If you know that you have, for example, if you're traveling to a remote destination from your home. Mm-hmm. So if somebody, if I live in San Diego and I'm traveling down with you guys, then of course it's less remote for me than it would be if I live in Germany. Right. So if you're far away from home, make sure that the level of medical coverage is enough to evacuate you back home, repatriate you if needed. And also, in some parts of the world, medical care is more expensive. It applies to North America. So you don't want to find yourself with a policy that doesn't have enough coverage for that. And with all those things, our website has information, and we can also help with such questions.
That's great. do you guys have any sort of medical questionnaire? What are your vetting? How does it work?
So at the end of the enrollment or registration process, we ask you to declare that you're medically fit to dive and travel. And that's basically it. It's true that if you're buying a policy and you're not medically fit to dive and travel, then of course, first of all, you're risking yourself and you shouldn't be doing that. It's your own health. But otherwise, it could cause a claim to not be covered. There are such things as pre-existing conditions. If you have a heart condition and your primary care physician tells you do not dive, this is not safe for you. First of all, you shouldn't be diving to protect your own health.
Yeah.
But second of all, a policy, if there is a diving accident, if something does happen to you and it's linked or related to your medical condition, it might not be covered.
Right. Okay.
So it's your response. It's a diver's responsibility.
Yeah.
And it's something important enough, such being your health, that we hardly see cases where people are not being responsible.
Right.
Divers in general are very responsible because we get certified and we know the risks, we know what can happen and what's involved. So we want to be responsible divers.
Yeah, definitely. That all makes a whole lot of sense. What would you say to people that just don't want to ever get insurance? We require it on our boat, and we do from time to time see people that just want to completely refuse.
I don't know. I mean, it's not worth it to refuse. It's not that expensive. If you're already on a boat out in the middle of the ocean, you've obviously paid some money to get there, and the insurance is a fraction of a fraction, and it's just not worth it. I think that's the best answer. It can ruin. Maybe not your life, but it can dig into your savings, and
for sure.
And again, it all comes down to being not worth it. You don't want to break in that college fund for being treated in a chamber because you didn't spend the little amount of money it costs to have coverage.
Right. No, I'm with you.
And I can tell you, I think the most expensive claim, or one of the most expensive claims we had, was well over $150 US. And why pay that when it can be covered for a couple of $100, if that even?
Yeah.
So.
Especially if you get the deluxe or the diamond travel and get that $100 onboard credit.
That's nobody should refuse that.
It's a pretty good deal, I've got to say.
I think it's an excellent deal.
Yeah, you're protected and
happy.
Covers your rentals or a couple drinks or Wi-Fi. Yeah, why not, right?
I would do it.
Perfect. So of course, the paying direct I think is huge, but what separates DiveAssure from other dive insurance providers?
I think the personal, first of all, the livable rider is something that we offer exclusively. Primary coverage in the U.S. is also something that we offer exclusively.
Oh, really?
For U.S. residents, yeah. That's an exclusive benefit to DiveAssure.
I had no idea.
Yeah. And otherwise, I think really we are in personal touch with everybody that we work with. And I think that's important. You want to know the people behind the screens, behind the insurance policies. You want to be able to talk to them. We try to meet everybody in shows and events and things like this, like Instagram Live. So again, thank you for having me here. And so I think overall the coverage is very, very comprehensive. It's tailored for divers. We are all divers. We're working within our industry. We're not just a bunch of people who are working in insurance and have never seen the ocean.
Right.
And I think that's important.
No, definitely. Everyone that I've ever met from DiveAssure has been nothing but lovely. So I think you guys have a really good team. That's for sure.
Thank you, and likewise. And,
well, thank
I don't know,
you.
I know Jen is here, but I don't know who else is here. But hi to
Jill.
all of you. Oh, hi, Jill.
I saw her pop up. So, yeah. Well, if anyone else has any questions for Roy, again, please feel free to ask them. But we're coming to the end of our hour here. So do you have anything? Oh, Jen says Emma. Oh, Emma with hearts.
I'll let her know.
Love Emma.
Yeah, Emma is great. Emma's been with us for 8 years now, and she's awesome. She's really fun to work with. That's
usually who, if somebody was or had questions about insurance and DiveAssure, we always steer them to Emma. So there could be a few people here that may have spoken to her already, but. Perfect. Yeah, Emma is great, and she's always happy to help, and she's very, very knowledgeable. And yes, we all love our job, so it's fun. Well, it's great because I know that we throw questions at you guys all the time, some hypotheticals, and we're happy with it. And it's always so helpful and so quick to get back to us and just provide really detailed information. It's clear that you know what you're talking about through and through, and it definitely comes across. Thank you. I appreciate that, and I'm happy that it's that we're providing that level of support and service. Absolutely. Is there anything? Oh, Jill's waving now too. Is there anything else that you wish people knew or thought about, or any type of advice you have for people? My advice is don't be shy to ask questions. Call us and talk to us for half an hour, for 45 minutes, and ask all the questions. Make sure you know what you're buying. Just be informed. And I think that's it's the best thing when it comes to protecting yourself, is to know what you're doing, and we're happy to do it. And we literally have calls that last sometimes 45 minutes with people going over everything, and we never get tired of it. And we want to have happy and repeating customers. If we don't have that, then we're not doing our job. Right. That's great. So if anybody has questions, and of course they can contact us through our website, but they can also contact Emma or myself. Our emails are pretty simple. It's emma@diveassure.com or roy@diveassure.com or info.usa@diveassure.com. We'll all reach all of us, and we're happy to help via email, or we can call back, set up a call, or just call our call center, and we're happy to help anytime. That's wonderful. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up. Thanks for everyone for watching, and thank you so much, Roy, for doing this with us and answering all those questions. I thought I knew quite a bit about DiveAssure, but I definitely learned some things today. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much again for having us. It's our great pleasure, and working with Nautilus is always fun. Right back at you. Well, thanks so much, and hopefully we'll see you soon. I guess when this ends. Hopefully sooner than later. Looks like demo will be the next opportunity. But yeah. Hopefully. Hopeful, but awesome. Okay, well, have a wonderful day, and thanks again. You too. Thank you very much. Also for everybody who was listening. Thank you. Okay, thanks, Roy. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.